At the new banquet hall of Benue State Government House in Makurdi, key actors in peace building have assembled government officials, security chiefs, traditional rulers, and civil society leaders from across the North Central region at the instance of the National Security Advisor and International Alert.
There is need to equip, to some extent, the locals to be able to defend themselves.
The country director of International Alert Nigeria, Dr. Paul Nyolago-Bemshima, explained that the harmonization of the national disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration framework was important in the light of violence in the North Central.
And I know that we continue to ask ourselves critical questions. Why do programs such as this fail? And what are the success factors for amnesty programs, as we popularly refer to it, in Nigeria?
The keynote speaker, Director of Preventing and Countering Violent Extremism at the Office of the National Security Advisor, highlighted that disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration is essential for post-conflict recovery and preventing future violence.
We cannot hope to build Nigeria of our dreams without first healing the wounds of the past and creating safe spaces for dialogue, truth-telling, and social cohesion.
Representative of Mietiala Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria voiced concern about increasing stigmatization of the Fulani ethnic group.
And we are very much happy that we are part of this. We will work hard. We have lost over 50,000 people and we have lost over 5 million heads of livestock in the last 10 years. And there had never been any support. And unfortunately, the few who are involved in what is termed as criminality has tarnished the image of everybody.
In his address, the Totiv, chairman of Benue State Traditional Council, called for justice for victims of violent attacks throughout the region.
Now, in my domain, in Kwande, they have taken over more than 4 wards and are staying. In my domain in Way West, almost all the 15 wards have been taken over. And the people have run to around Naka, and there is kidnapping and road blockage on the way every day. That's not a culture that we can accommodate in Benue State.
Benue State Governor Hyacinth Elias says attacks on communities in the state are driven by a deliberate agenda of land grabbing.
We're already killed and driven out of our land. Where are we going to stay to be talking peace, and then talk peace with who? These are realities, these are the truth, that we have to explain and wrestle through for them also to forgive and then to see whatever it's done. Forgiveness is one of the models.
As consultations continue, stakeholders are expected to draft actionable recommendations that will contribute to the national DDR framework aimed at achieving lasting peace, justice for victims, and meaningful reintegration of former combatants. Theophilus Tiav, Arise News.
Salihut Dantata Mahmood, security analyst, joins us to discuss this disturbing, growing insecurity challenges in Borno and other places in the North Benue Plateau. Glad to have you.
Thank you very much.
On News
Thank you very
Night.
much. Good evening.
Let me start with that report. The key word here is rising insecurity. Why is insecurity rising, especially in the north?
Well, the speed of insecurity in the northeastern part of the north, as well as northwestern part of the north, as well as north central part of the north, differs. That of northeast started as a result of religious misinformation, when the police during the Yaradua administration killed their leader, Mohammed Yusuf, and from there it escalated. Then that of the northwestern state of Katsina, Zamfara, and others have politics, have illegal gold mine, then communal related differences as well. That extends to states like Sokoto, Kebbi, and others. While that of north central states of Niger and Kwara differs. These are entirely foreign and alien terrorists who had come earlier to disguise as preachers in some villages like Nanu, Nuku, Baibete and Karuzi under Kayama local government area of Kwara State.
I didn't hear you mention Benue and Plateau.
No, I want to come there.
Okay.
Yeah, so before they now started showing their true colors. Then when you come to Benue, Taraba and others, it is issue between Fulani headsmen as well as some of the community inhabitants.
The governor talked about land grabbing.
Well, you know, the governor is entitled to his opinion, but to the best of my knowledge, because when you're talking about land grabbing, it is when someone come from somewhere and just, you know, encroach into your land and what have you. But the background we carried out, some of these domesticated heads people, they have lived closer to the Agatu people, some of the Tiv people for long, even though you cannot rule out politics as well as intrusion of some foreign mercenaries who are also foreign Fulanis and also for that. But the major cause of the issues are issues of people who have lived with among themselves for some time. The Fulani people even speak the Tiv language. Some of the Tiv also speaks it. Also the Agatu area and also others. So if you look at all that of northeastern part of Nigeria, north central, northwestern state, they all differs. But be it as it may, were there to be up-to-date intelligence gathering, use of drones and modern gadgets, that monies were expanded to procure for the Land Army, Air Force and others during the Buhari administration, and at the onset of this Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu administration, there were certain arms and armament that were also procured. Even this, some days ago, the President and Commander-in-Chief went to commission some newly procured fighter jets for the Nigerian Air Force and other weapons. So if in modern day you still want to continue with the old style of combatant onslaught, this is what you get. Because if, for example, the 8-hour drones you are supposed to dispatch for, sightseeing and also in order to make you move your troop and advance team and what have you, you don't do that, and you feel because you have your officers and men who were trained in NDA depot or maybe police colleges and academy, and you want to move, that is what gives room for ambushes world over, whether America, China or wherever. Combatant nature are minimal, while use of modern equipment as well as intelligence gathering and sharing is what help to fight insurgency and wars. So I think the entire security architecture, like I emphasized at one time, needed to be restructured for efficiencies. If you have no business being a GOC, Air Officer Commanding, Flag Officer Commanding, AIG, Commandant of Civil Defense, you should be taken away. So we have the best brains and best ends in the security apparatus, but they are underutilized, and as well, most of the gadgets procured are not being put into better use.
So this is the reason for the rising insecurity. Is that what you're saying?
It is also a contributing factor. So we're there to be intelligence gathering.
Because if you don't get, the issues here are, if you don't nip things in the bud, in fact, if you don't know the problem or where it started, how do you solve it? If we're able to gauge why the sudden rise, then you begin to talk about where to go, what to do. But if you don't know the reason for the sudden rise, how do you go about solving it?
Don't forget, we have infiltration by some foreign terrorists like ISWAP, ISIS, who are using the porous nature of the Tumbus area of Lake Chad, which we earlier discussed. So now the sophistication of the non-state actors is much that has moved from arithmetical to geometrical.
Is it that the government is not matching their own sophistication?
The government, our security forces are doing their best. I can assure you that as I'm talking to you now, they are carrying out onslaught in different parts of Nigeria. But don't forget, we have shortage of manpower amongst them too. What are the numbers of cadets they get into Nigerian Defense Academy as regular combatant officers? When in a state, you pick 3 every year, Army, Naval and Air Force cadet, then how many do you pick in police colleges, depot of the Army, Air Force, Navy, and what have you? The entire security manpower is below.
Let's go for let's push this further. It looks like it's the same song we sing. What's your disposition to this high level, that's what it is called, stakeholders meeting by the ONSA and the International Alert focused on creating exit pathways from violence and criminality?
Well, you see, when you're talking about in this kind of situation...
I mean, I can understand if you tell somebody not to smoke, you must show him what to be doing so he won't return. So they're calling it exit pathways to prevent violence and criminality. But what do you make about this continuous, every time store summit, we talk? That doesn't seem to be yielding anything on ground.
Well, to some extent, in fairness, I can say it is not as it used to be. Itato, you know how Abuja-Kaduna roads used to be, where you cannot even travel without being kidnapped. Even the railway was attacked. Today, it is not there. As I'm talking to you, some vehicles are moving from Lagos, Abuja, plying that road. Let's give this to the officers and men of the entire security forces. The issues is a collective responsibility. And we must do it, because even as citizens too, we are not also playing our roles. Like we always say, the security forces are not also angels. Sometimes this ownership involvement, I've always given example of Kayama local government and Barute local government. At the time, the Mahmuda terrorists came and gave them later not to go to farms. They did not relax. They sent their vigilante, even though they were killed, they still transmitted certain information to Abuja here and other areas. The governor got alerted. The GOC was given order to go. He went 2nd Division. Later, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Oloyede, was there. So some of the inhabitants also, with due respect to them, even though sometimes you cannot also trust how you give security information, they are not also living up to that. Like if you look at the occurrence that happened, the landmines that killed 2 and what have you, that Damboa Maiduguri road is about 100 and something kilometers. It has been abandoned for some time by motorists and a lot of people. What stopped the 7th Division, Theater Command and Joint Task Force to have intensified use of drone, the intelligence gathering? It was left abandoned because as at the time it happened, we got our own information through some inhabitants. And these were some of the reasons that led to this, because were it to be properly surveyed, surveillance sent there, it would have been like this. Then don't forget, in the studio with you as the anchor, I had raised issue about the utilization of the naval base in Baga. Look at the fishermen that were killed. It was at that side they were killed. If that singular advice and suggestion as well as ideas were taken, because you cannot have a naval base in an area without surveying the maritime waters. This is what ISIS and others, after carrying out their onslaught against innocent people in northwestern state, north central and others, they regroup in Tumbus and that Mandara Hills area, which we emphasize in this studio. So the issues are, we should do more of working with intelligence gathered, whether from civilians, whether amongst themselves. Then another thing also that is not playing well among the armed forces is also lost cooperation, because we used to know them to have about 80% synergy, where if it is air intelligence that gathered, they will give to army intelligence, that is the DMI. If it is the CID that gathered, or SIB, or the DSS. But under condition of anonymity, some top plainclothes security officers confided in me that some of the errors sometimes are the inability of other sister security agencies to work with the intelligence guard, because this
lack of cooperation.
This inferiority complex, saying, is it a civil intelligence arm that will come and give me intelligence report when I got trained in NDA, when I got trained in this, and it doesn't work. And again, let's not deceive ourselves. Even though we are going to go to resort as lender of last resort, like use of modern gadgets and what have you, it is manpower you also need to operate. Look at the kind of mistake made in Tudumbiri in Kaduna, where they thought they were a gathering of terrorists and the people were. So if you don't adequately recruit and also pay very well and enhance the welfare, then you don't get it.
Good. Now you've talked about Borno, and there's a very important thing there to say. 23 farmers killed, fishermen also killed, the landmines. But that story says that one group, one sect of Boko Haram killed these people because they were giving information and working with another group. There arises, Dantata, this problem of safeguard, and you talked about people giving you information.
Ownership involvement.
Safeguarding informants. If they can be safeguarded, somebody said if you see something, say something. If they can be safeguarded, if their security is not sure, how will the security forces get information? Or people like you? So I'm talking about the question of protecting the informants.
Well, it depends on the areas. Like I can give you an example when it started happening in North Central states, like I mentioned to you. Some of the inhabitants, gave us privileged intelligence information, which we transmitted, and some even went through the media and all sorts of other things. But for some communities over there, as due to fear of the terrorists, they don't even summon the courage to go and give information to even the outpost of the police that is closer to them. This kind of thing happened before that happened in Marti, before the attack on the military base that killed even the captain and also others. One of the Kanuri that is close to me, in fact, is a member of one northern NGO we have, Arewa Youth for Peace and Security. He said they got the information 3 days before that attack, but because they were being monitored by even some of the terrorists that comes to buy and go and what have you, they couldn't go forward to tell that. You can see how these non-state actors have subjected people to fear and all sorts of other things. Even this of Kayama, Baruten, Kanji, and others, it took the doggedness of some of the retired officers in the civil service, military, and even some people in national orientation to transmit the information here. That killing of the vigilantes had happened 4 days, and already the inhabitants of Kemanji, close to Kayama, which is the headquarters of Kayama local government, were already packing their belongings to Kayama. But when they summoned the courage and these things went, it helped. That is called ownership involvement. So I think at this material time, like I always say, the president and commander-in-chief cannot go and tell us or enlighten us about our roles. We also as citizens know that we have roles to play. So that is why this aspect of community policing, it is needed at this time. Then revitalization of local security apparatus also is needed, so that periodically there can be stakeholder interaction for them to know that as citizens. Because when, for example, you know the market a non-state actor goes to, you know that he comes to your sister as his girlfriend. In Kaduna here, we saw cases where a woman that served as pimp to the bandits, when that of Benungwari was at high heave, was arrested. She said she was the one that buy foodstuffs and takes women and all sorts of other things. But at the time some of the inhabitants got to know, they alerted the security agents. So I think in the northeastern part of Nigeria, northwestern part of states like Zamfara, Katsina, and others, they should take that responsibility of non-kinetic measure. Right. Then also the security agencies periodically let us interact, so that that trust issue you raise can further be
not
rebuilt.
even just the trust issue, protecting them. Making sure that, because if they're not protected, they can't give you information. But thank you so much, Salihu Dantata, security analyst, on what the killings in Borno and some other parts of the nation.